Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military of a Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. The president of Ukraine, Zelenskyy, came to the North America. Today he has already had a meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, where they were talking a lot about the situation, of course, in Ukraine, where the Canadian Prime Minister promised Zelenskyy additional military support. And according to information we have today, Zelenskyy is going to have a meeting with the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and this meeting is going to take place this evening. The sources are saying that Zelenskyy, for the last time in this year, will try to convince Trump to support Zelensky's 20-point plan, but most likely Trump will reject this plan. So, as of the situation on the ground, the Russians, according to information we have during the previous 24 hours, probably managed to improve their positions significantly through the entire line of combat contact. Yesterday, the president of Russia, Putin, had a meeting with the commanders and the commander of general staff and the head of the general staff of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, where he was reported about the current situation on the ground. And telling the truth, this report was very interesting. So now let's discuss everything in details, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction, about its western part. During the meeting between Putin and commanders of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, he was reported that the Russians managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Stepnogorsk. This settlement is located on the western Zaporozhye direction, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 27th, and this is the 28th of December. The Russians, according to this report, managed to improve their position significantly in this area. Based on the report, we adjusted the map. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources also improved or changed the gray zone in this direction. According to the latest report that were published by pro-Ukrainian sources, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to improve their positions further in the northern direction towards the settlement of Grigorovka, and Russians, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, managed to answer and to improve their positions significantly through this dense network of the fortifications. Once again, this information was provided by pro-Ukrainian sources, which means that the Russians are moving further. Now let's talk about the eastern Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours, as you can see, we adjusted the map. So this is the situation by the end of the 25th of December of 2025. This is the 26th of December, this is the 27th, and this is the beginning of the 28th of December of 2025. According to the Minister of Defense, according to the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, according to different videos, the Russians, as a result of clashes, managed to improve their positions and to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Gulay Pole. So in this video we can see how exactly the clashes for the settlement of Gulay Pole were taking place. As you can see, the Russians were using all types, all weapons, they have all means they have to attack the city and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. As of the morning of the 28th of December of 2025, there are still reports from pro-Ukrainian sources that there are still pockets of resistance through the entire territory of the city of Gulay Pole, that there are lots of Ukrainians that were encircled by Russians without any chances for evacuation. So here we can see in this video once again how exactly the fightings for the territory were taking place, and of course in the final part of this video we can see lots of episodes how Russians were establishing and raising the Russian flags through the entire territory of the city. Different pro-Russian sources counted that during let's say during the previous night lots of videos were published about the battle for the city of Gulay Pole, and pro-Ukrainian sources reported that many flags were recorded. More than 30 flags the group of forces east raised in the area of the city of Gulay Pole. More than 30 flags through the entire territory. So no doubts that the settlement was completely captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And the most important probably is not just the report about complete control, but also several reports that were published by pro-Ukrainian sources. According to them, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly and further in the southwestern direction. Basically, Russians secured the settlement of Gulay Pole and advanced further in the southwestern direction. And according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the territory between these pounds and the city of Gulay Pole is already the gray zone, which means that Russians are fighting for this territory right now, trying to shorten the distance to the next settlements along the TO814 road. We are talking about the settlement of Zelenskyy. So it seems that in coming days the Russians will continue offensive operation further in this direction, and basically after after the fall of the settlement of Gulay-Polye, Russians have all chances to continue offensive operation for them in the western direction through this dense network of the fortifications and basically to attack the city of Orechov from behind. And this is exactly what we are going to see during the next months. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that currently there are very heavy clashes. There are still very heavy clashes for the settlement of Ternovate, and this is the second bridgehead along the river of Gaichul on the Ukrainian side of the river. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Mirnograd direction, Mirnograd agglomeration. During the previous 12 hours, as you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly. This is the situation by the end of the 27th of December, and we had this part of the city of Mirnograd as a gray zone, and we had this for a very long period of time. But by the morning of the 28th of December, we colored the city of Mirnograd under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. During the previous nights, during the same report, during the same meeting between Putin and commanders, the commander of the group of forces center stated that Russians established complete control over the city by the name of Mirnograd, and later the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation published this video where we can see dozens or maybe dozens of episodes of how Russians were raising the Russian flag through the entire territory of the city. So based on this report, based on the video, we adjusted the map. So the city of Mirnograd fell during the previous 24-48 hours. Furthermore, the Russians improved their positions not just in this area. The sources reported that Russians also managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Rodinskaya. So as for the city of Rodinskaya, this is the situation by the end of the 27th of December, and this is the already the beginning of the 28th of December. We have a video, and video shows also dozens of flags that Russians raised through the entire territory of the city, which means that now the Russians have a very powerful foothold before moving further in the northern direction, before moving further through the final phase of the battle for the Donbas region. The Russians will improve their positions in coming days and months significantly around the city of Pokrovsk. We're talking about logistics, we're talking about equipment, we're talking about everything, and only then the Russians will continue offensive operation, most likely without facing huge and big resistance from the Ukrainian side. Furthermore, during the same meeting, pro-Russian sources and the commander of the group of forces center stated that Russians also improved their positions around the settlement of Sofievka. So this is the situation by the end of the 27th of December, and this is the 28th of December. The Russians, according to this report, improved their positions and established complete control over the territory. Now the Russians are about to answer the battle for the settlement of Teretsky, which is a very important battle, because with control over the settlement of Teretsky, most likely Russians will be able to establish complete control over these strongholds around the settlement, and from these positions, then Russians most likely will continue offensive operation further in the area of the settlement of Druzhkovka, basically to attack the Konstantinovka agglomeration from behind. As for the city of Konstantinovka, pro-Russian sources stated, and the commander of the group of forces South stated, that Russians currently control up to 50% of buildings. He didn't say that Russians control 50% of the territory of the city of Konstantinovka, because it's two different things. Russians report they control 50% of buildings through the territory of the city of Konstantinovka. But as you can see, according to this map and according to maps of every single mapper, different mappers, we don't see this control on the ground. It seems that we are receiving not so many updates from this territory. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. The Russians continue their offensive operation, and during the previous 12 hours, the Russians improved their position significantly around the settlement of Zakitne. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians through the territory of the settlement of Zakitne with FPV drones. One of these attacks took place exactly at this point. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that everything to the north and everything to the north of the river of Seversky Donets is already under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the 28th, this is the 27th, once again this is the 28th. The Russians are about to finish the battle for this territory, and this is a very important battle because In this direction, in this area, the Ukrainians have the biggest elevations. So this territory is a very important territory both for Russians and Ukrainians, and basically who controls this strategical elevation can control everything almost till the city of Slaviansk. So that is why currently there are very heavy clashes exactly for this area, and if Russians can take this territory under complete control, this will force the Ukrainians to fall back from many towns, settlements, strongholds, tree lines and fortifications around this territory. As for the city of Liman, the Russians intensified their offensive operation. During the previous day, several pro-Russian sources reported that the defense of the armored forces of Ukraine around the city of Liman has collapsed, that Ukrainians are retreating towards the city, most likely with the purpose to regroup themselves and to try to hold the Russians around the city of Liman. So about retreating, the city of Liman is not the only place where we received reports about possible retreat of the armored forces of Ukraine. Today we also received lots of updates and different post articles about the same situation around the city of Gulyai-Polye. Pro-Russian sources and pro-Ukrainian sources are saying that Ukrainians began running away from their positions. Sometimes the Russians are saying that they enter this or that stronghold of the armored forces of Ukraine without any resistance from Ukrainian side, despite the fact that Ukrainians could defend themselves on these positions for a quite long period of time. So we see that this might be the beginning of something bigger than just problems along the line of combat contact. And let's discuss the situation around the city of Kupiansk. The sources are saying that during the previous 48 hours, the Russians introduced a significant number of forces in the direction of the city with the purpose to stabilize the situation, with the purpose to counterattack Ukrainian forces and to force Ukrainians to fall back from this area. As of the previous 24 hours, we have small changes. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. Pro-Russian sources published a video from the plants in the central part of the settlement. Here we can see Russian soldier that raised the flag, and based on this video we adjusted this part of the city of Kupiansk along the street of Ivana Svita. Furthermore, we have another video in the northwestern part. Here we can see 3 Russian soldiers that were moving through the city, and based on this video we came to the conclusion that this territory is also under complete Russian control. So as you can see, based on these 2 videos we adjusted the map, and there is a very important thing I would like to point to attention. There is another video published by pro-Russian sources. This one here we can see lots of FPV drone attacks on Ukrainian positions in the southern part, but we haven't adjusted anything based on the video because according to this video is archived despite the fact that the attack took place here, because there is no snow currently. According to different mappers, according to the reality, there is snow in the city of Kupiansk, so that is why it is very important to understand which video is archived and which video is fresh. So as you can see, the situation for Zelenskyy is very difficult, and it seems that he doesn't have strong cards before meeting with the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Furthermore, the President of Russia emphasized that Kyiv does not want to end the conflict peacefully. Moscow will achieve the goals of the conflict by military means. Furthermore, the Russians are saying that currently they are no longer interested in withdrawal of Ukrainian positions from the rest of the Donetsk region, because Russians will do this with military means, and most likely if it happens, most likely the Russians will increase their demands and Russians will ask more. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.